What's up, everybody? Make sure to smash the like button if you're in here waiting, especially. It is I, your host, the BitBoy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a lot of financial stories. A lot of financial stories. We're going to be taking a look at what Jerome Powell said that has people worried, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start with the markets. Okay. We are on CoinGecko. Market cap 3.724 trillion is down considerably today, down 4.2%. 24-hour volume 204 billion. Dominance 67.7%, and ETH dominance 12.3%. We want to get back above that $4 trillion number. We're getting behind the 8 ball here a good bit. I mean, it is time to start, when we have days like we've had in the last 24 hours, it is time to start asking the question, are we in a bear market completely? Did we hit an all-time high in October? And now October most likely is going to end in red. What does that mean going forward? Is the market over? So I think the 4-year cycle is over in the way that it's always worked. I carved myself out a spot here in crypto by talking about the 4-year cycle so much and how it's been everything. But the reality is now, with all the institutions in, and they've got a stranglehold on so much of the supply, that they can trade around that. So that doesn't mean that we're not going to have big swings. We may go back down to 88 or $70,000 or something, but it'll swing back. So I think it's more important to think about the swings now than it was ever in the past. So here's our market cap trending down. You can see over the last 7 days, down, down, down. The trading volume on the way up. So what does that say? A lot of people are still trading these moves. Trading coins, we got Blockchain FX, Pepe Node, and Plasma. Plasma is the only one we talked about on the channel before. Then top gainers, Aurora, Anvil, and Jelly My Jelly. Jelly My Jelly is it's a platform for taking videos and reactions. And so it is very strange looking. Bitcoin coming in at 107,721. And I have I got my trade. There it is. Okay. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Trading here on Phemex, where you guys know we've been having the trading competition. And if you have ever tried to sign up before and you couldn't, I suggest trying my link. There might be some special sauce in there for you to try to get approved on Phemex. I've had the link a long time. So that's down below. Also, if you want free trading calls from professionals, we also have a trading group you can join. All you got to do is give your UID for Phemex. If you don't have Phemex, then make sure to deposit like $200, create an account, and boom. Okay. So I think we just swept the low here. We could be going up. Let me knock out my sessions here. Okay. I think we're probably going back to the VWAP here. Here's the VWAP, volume weighted average profile. I think that's what that stands for. But you see, we live on that line. We live on that line pretty much. And right now we're below it. Last time we were below it here on the hourly contract. Maybe back here. You notice it always pops back up into that VWAP though. So what the market is telling us is this is where we want to trade. This is where there's a lot of liquidity. It's where people come into long and to short around the VWAP. So you can see why I am in a long right now, because I'm expecting it to go back up to that VWAP. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Is alt season out of the question? No, I think we still have a chance for alt season. As long as we're not in an actual bear market right now already, which you never know until later. But I don't think that's where we're at. So anyways, all right, let's go look at the Fed Watch, guys. So yesterday they announced a rate cut. And this is the big deal here. The big deal here is, in his comments, Jerome Powell said something to the effect of, we're not guaranteeing another rate cut this year, which means in the December meeting, what we're looking at right now, December 10th, we're looking at 76.8% versus 23.2%. So they're saying 23% chance we stay where we are, 76.8% chance that we move. And Jerome Powell's his message was, we don't have to move it this next meeting. We may, but we may not. That's not really what we wanted to see. And when you look down here, yesterday it fell all the way to a 66.6% chance. If you go back a week, it was at 91.1%. So ultimately, I believe that we're going to see a rate cut next month. I think Jerome Powell knows exactly what he's doing when he's up there talking. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knew what he said was going to be bearish for the market. He knew that. And he said it anyways. So, because look, what he says is true. It's not guaranteed, but it's almost guaranteed. So we want to watch this climb. We want to see this number climb over the next few weeks to get it higher. We want to see this one down here, the 23.2% decline, obviously. We want it to be like 90-10 probably. Be pretty good. So, but here's the good news is. The good news is 76.8% chance, while it's high, it's not enough to bake it into the price. So at some point, we're going to get a little rally, and it's going to go up, I believe. All right, let's get into all the news today. Bitcoin sentiment slides as market dips. Why bearish odds are now increasing. Bitcoin is bleeding today, and aggregated sentiment on prediction markets is sliding right along with it. Bitcoin today fell as low as $110,000, telling 3% following statements from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell that a December rate cut was not a foregone conclusion. His comments came after the Fed delivered the news of a 0.25% rate cut on Wednesday afternoon, bringing the rate to 3.75 to 4%. But instead of rallying on the dovish move, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other assets plunged on the more hawkish than expected comments. We're going to look at it in another article about how it's not what they do, it's about how they say things. It's what they do compared to the expectations. Meanwhile, Bitcoin sentiment on the prediction market myriad, blah, 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 likewise fell sharply today, dropping by close to 20%. The odds predicting Bitcoin's next move upward to 120K or downward to 100K dropped from 75%, predicting a pump, to just 58%. Reversal that suggests traders may be losing some of their optimism for Bitcoin's short-term future. Are we in a bear market? Are the bears in control right now? We just don't realize it yet. That's the main question you got to ask yourself. Fed's rate cut today was widely anticipated and should not have had any short-term impact on prices. The sell-off was more likely driven by the typical sell the news action or Powell's more hawkish statements, or a combination of the two. Now we want to see if Bitcoin can hold support levels or go back to 100K. But here's the paradox. Institutional money is still flowing in. Bitcoin ETF saw $202.48 million in net inflows on October 28th, pushing cumulative total net inflow to $62.3 billion. That's real conviction, even as short-term traders bail and prediction markets turn, if not bearish, then at least a lot less bullish. The post-Fed sell-off shows that Bitcoin is in trouble in the short term. The crypto opened today's daily candle, and you can see we're already much more bearish than this. Daily candle at $112,925 and immediately sold off, reaching a low of $109.265. Right now, we're coming in at $107,578. So we're even lower than this. The RSI for Bitcoin was at 44.87% on the daily chart. RSI measures whether an asset is overbought or oversold. Take a look at the market cipher here. On the hour chart, which is what we're looking at here, we had a bearish red dot about 5 hours ago. But we are very close for this to pop green. I want to look at the RSI though. Yeah, RSI is basically flatlined here, where the money flow is flattened here, should I say? What do you want, Cat? On the daily charts, the average directional index, or ADX, reached just 17.29. EMAs tell a split story. On the daily chart, the 50-day EMA still trading above the 200-day EMA still. However, on the 4-hour chart, the 50-period AMA has crossed below the 200-period EMA, a bearish death cross that suggests short-term momentum has shifted to the downside. But the fact that EMAs are hinting at a potential golden cross in the 4-hour candlesticks is enough to give traders some bullish hope that Bitcoin can still end the month back in its bullish channel. Got to get back up pretty high from here in 2 days. Here's the thing about markets. They rarely care about what happens and are mostly driven by what happens relative to expectations. The Fed's 0.25% rate was priced in with 97% certainty, when something is that widely expected, there's no fuel for a rally at 97% certainty. Everyone who wanted to buy is already bought. Historically, lower rates have fueled bullish momentum in crypto by making borrowing cheaper and pushing investors toward riskier assets. But that effect takes time to work through the system. In the immediate aftermath, we're seeing the flip side, profit taking by traders who position themselves ahead of the announcement, and potentially lower conviction traders shaken by Powell's unexpected comments. What could have sparked a rally? Well, if they did 50% to 25 bips, that would have been really bullish. Or really dovish comments instead of hawkish. So it has bigger implications. Just yesterday, technical analysis suggested Bitcoin would likely close to the 114,200 monthly open. I would like to see it go up at this point. Would be good, since I have a long down. Bitcoin trading at $115,000 of bullish momentum indicators. We're way past that. So with the Fed rate decision behind us, the focus shifts back to pure price action. So now we're going to see if we're going to retest 100K or maybe reclaim the path back to 102K. Until Bitcoin can reclaim 112,500 and show some actual momentum, path of least resistance is now down. Bitcoin price falls as Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, or bears in control. Could bears drag down Bitcoin's price? Two experts tell Crypto News what to expect after the Fed rate cut decision. Federal Reserve has cut rates for the second time this year. With little economic data to rely on, Jerome Powell has warned the central bank policymakers are struggling to agree on what should happen next. Because of this, another reduction in December is not a foregone conclusion, despite the Fed indicating this was the plan earlier this year. Bitcoin is down 4% over the past 24 hours at the time of this writing, and just about holding above 110,000, but it has fallen. It's below that now. Here's the CEO of someplace. Bitcoin has moved beyond retail sentiment cycle. Volatility has compressed because the holder base is more patient. Wall Street advisors are the ones allocating serious capital now. The more Bitcoin behaves like a mature asset, the stronger the long-term compounding story becomes. Stability is precisely what enables supply squeezes to build. He believes a quick move to 108,000 is possible. We've got that. Note that dips keep getting absorbed by account and building multi-month positions. As previously reported by Crypto News, questions have been asked about whether the interest rate cuts are wise, especially given releases from the Bureau of Labor Statistics have been delayed or postponed because of the government shutdown with no end in sight. I mean, that's really what we're waiting on at this point, is for that government shutdown to end. Copper argues the BTC had a remarkably familiar setup to October 2024 ahead of the Fed decision, with a wait for catalyst mentality that defined Bitcoin's position, Bitcoin's behavior, last time monetary expectations pivoted. Let's see, we got to get back over 114,600. Momentum ignition likely at that rate. That hasn't happened, meaning the door remains open to another test by the bears, which is what we're going through right now. See this now pop back up to 108,000 would be good. Overall, Copper's analysis argues that Bitcoin has failed to see off bearish threats, and a transition from defense to offense has been underway. Governor Stephen Miron, a Trump pick who's echoed the printed calls for more aggressive rate cuts, he voted for a 50 bip cut. One guy said they should keep the rates the same. One guy said they should make it 50 bips, and 10 said 25. Overall, Wall Street, both the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones indices lost ground during Jerome Powell's news conference. These pullbacks could be short-lived because of the earnings after the closing bell. Those are going to come today. Given that Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta collectively have a market cap of $10 trillion, upbeat results could put the stock market on a strong footing in after-hours trading, and this could feed through to Bitcoin. BTC holds 108K after red fade cut sparks volatility. We did not hold 8K. We dropped down to 107. Bitcoin is standing with a bearish bias, holding around $108,850, despite improved global crypto sentiment and fresh political and industry developments. The opposition party of Germany pushed to classify Bitcoin as a national asset. We talked about France yesterday, Germany today. Whereas AI-focused miner TeraWulf announced a $500 million fundraise, and Binance unveiled a transparency partnership with Bubble Maps. Germany's opposition partner, Germany's opposition pushes to recognize Bitcoin as a national asset. The largest opposition party of Germany, Alternative for Germany, AfD, has proposed recognizing Bitcoin as a strategic national asset. It's urging policymakers to separate it from other cryptos under the EU's MiCA regulatory framework. The motion argues that excessive regulation could stifle innovation and weaken Germany's position in digital finance. It calls for maintaining VAT exemptions, protecting citizens' rights to self-custody, and preserving 12-month tax exemption for Bitcoin profits, rule that currently benefits long-term holders. Countries are now in FOMO. AfD lawmakers also suggested that Germany consider adding Bitcoin to its national reserves, similar to how banks hold gold. The proposal echoes recent debates in France, like we talked about. We already talked about that this week. People interpret this move as a sign of growing political acceptance for Bitcoin across Europe. TeraWulf, from Bitcoin mining to AI with $500 million fundraise. Yeah, it's crazy. Bitcoin miner TerraWolf plans to raise $500 million through a convertible note offering to build a new AI-focused data center in Abernathy, Texas. The notes, due in 2032, may expand by another $75 million, depending on Biden on demand. Fund will support companies' pivot from Bitcoin mining to AI infrastructure, leveraging its existing energy and hardware assets to meet the surging demand for GPU-powered computing. This followed TerraWolf's previous $3 billion financing round with Morgan Stanley, a $1.4 billion Google guarantee, and $3.7 billion hosting deal with Google-backed FluidStack. Binance and Bubble Maps join forces to expose insider trading. Binance has partnered with blockchain analytics firm Bubble Maps to boost transparency and detect insider trading. The integration allows Binance Web3 wallets users to visualize token distribution and identify wallet connections using Bubble Maps' interactive Bubble interface. So, Fed signal end of QT. What does it mean for the Bitcoin price? Starting December 1st, the Fed will stop allowing its bond holdings to shrink and begin reinvesting maturing debt into short-term treasury bills. In simple terms, when the Fed's old bonds get paid back, instead of destroying that money and shrinking its balance sheet, it will use the funds to buy new short-term government debt. Bitcoin fell 35% after the Fed ended QT 2019 and rate cuts began, according to data highlighted by analyst Brett. Thanks, Brett. That is despite growth in U.S. stock markets at that time, which typically move in tandem with Bitcoin. You can look at the chart, you can see when QT ended and when QE began. So during this middle piece is when it fell, and that's before we're actually going bullish again. If it's a traditional 4-year cycle, match the old one. Bitcoin market didn't recover until the Fed launched full-scale quantitative easing in early 2020. So ending QT is not the end-all be-all. It's beginning the QE that we're looking for. Bro, Brad had something else to say. I would say we're at the peak of the 4-year cycle now, though, which may not be any better. Hard to say right now at this point. Meanwhile, some signs of potential bear market are being noticed. We already talked about that. MACD crossover pending. When the Fed begins buying treasury bills and a swap for central bank reserves in a few months, is that money printing? Is it QE? And Lynn Alden said it's money printing. Whether it's QE or not is semantics. Fed won't call it QE since it's not duration and it's not for economic stimulus. See, at all levels, the Fed works on what they say, the dog whistles that they give to people that really matter in the markets. BTC drops, then pops as Trump lowers China tariffs. They had a meeting. They shook hands afterwards. President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump of China and the U.S. respectively. Speaking of Board Air Force One, the U.S. president was also reported saying it was a 1-year agreement that would be extended. Trump says the rare earth issue has been settled and there would be no more roadblocks on them. Trump said U.S. tariffs on China would be lowered to 47% from 57%. He said he would be going to China in April and that Xi would come to the U.S. some stage after that. Bitcoin briefly fell to 108,000. It's at 107 now. They shook hands at the end of the meeting for departing. I mean, they're on good terms with each other. So there you go. That was good news. Zcash sparks promising 45% weekly rally as shielded coins hit record high. Zcash surged this week, closing to $360 after recently dipping to $288. The rally was driven by a record inflow of coins into shielded pools. But this is the only one it mentions is Zcash, but other privacy coins are also, like in Monero, are rising. So there you go. Blockworks shutters its news division, pivots to data and analytics. Hasn't yet. It's still there as of yesterday. There was an article posted. But is it the last one? They are going to be going out of business or going into a new business. Founded in 2017, the crypto media outlet says the move marks the next phase of its growth. Blockworks, a leading crypto media company, has announced the closure of its news division as it shifts focus toward its fast-growing data and analytics business. The announcement was made by co-founder Jason Yanowitz on X yesterday, where he praised the editorial team for helping shape the industry conversation every day. Launched in 2021, Blockworks Newsroom really rose to prominence in crypto journalism. Yanowitz says the decision reflects a strategic pivot towards Blockworks' core strength, data, and distribution. The market is telling us that our combo of data plus distribution is extremely valuable, noting that the company's analytics business has seen particular rapid growth over the past 2 years. He added that the landscape of crypto media is changing, with audience increasing, turning to real-time data dashboards, research platforms, and institutional-grade analytics over traditional news reporting. The company plans to expand its Blockworks intelligence and data platform, aiming to become a true data destination for digital asset professionals. So there you go. I guess maybe it is closed because they didn't post anything today. Last story today: Vitalik Buterin offloads fresh bag of meme coins for $14,000. Basically, a lot of times what these meme coins will do is they send Vitalik Buterin a big proportion of their coins and try to make it look like he's in on their coin when all they're doing is send it to his public wallet. And so he just recently sold $14,000 worth of these meme coins. And he usually gives these profits to nonprofit organizations. So, it's kind of a win-win because this technique has often worked to some extent. But then he sells them and he doesn't hold, he holds some of them, but I think it's more like he just chooses which ones to sell at which time. So, but that's what we got for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the show and have a great day. It's Thursday. Good boy out.